Welcome to Pulp Mythos. We're going to be discussing The Haunting of Bly Manor, the last
And
four
eating
episodes,
toothpaste.
but specifically the final episode. That's what we're going to be talking about. Um, if you haven't subbed to the channel, please do so. Lots of content on the channel. We have the Mandalorian starting this Friday. We just did The Undoing, the first episode of that. We're doing Fargo, all kinds of different content. We have two other videos of Bly Manor if you haven't checked those out. But like I said, we're going to be focusing on the end of the season show series, however you want to label it. Um, I want to start with two characters that I think have a very similar storyline. I think, we're led to believe that Peter Quint is sort of the villain of the series, and then we're introduced to another character, Viola Lloyd, who's the real villain of the series. But they have very similar backgrounds in that these are two characters who saw an opportunity to rise, and then they got consumed with sort of greed and selfishness, which led to all the
Weird.
horrible things. Do you both agree? Oh, I'm here with Spencer and Larry, by the way, if you're new to the channel, and I'm Brian. Do y'all agree that the characters have similar story arcs, or how do y'all see that?
Very much so. And it's the sort of thing we get revealed that Viola, yeah, she's the source of much of the suffering, but you know Peter is as much a problem. Well, not as much a problem because she's the source of the curse, but in a big way, he's in large part still the problem too. Even though we get his backstory and it's a little sympathetic, but he's still pretty irredeemable in that he's continuing this stuff. He seems to know it's wrong the way his mother seems to manipulate him and everything, and yet he still goes about things the way he does. And and since we're discussing everything, even the end, he even has his little apology at the end where he fades away, and during that scene, I just feel like I'm like, yeah, that's meaningless. That's meaningless. That was in fact maybe something he said in hopes that, I don't know, maybe that he doesn't go to hell when he dematerializes, where he's like, oh, I'm sorry. It's like, no, you're not sorry. You're a sociopath.
Well, my thing is like, okay, if it would have been year, I don't know, like 47 of him basically reliving that day with his mother, his worst memory or whatever, that wasn't it. And it showed how all the other ghosts were reliving separate memories. Like they were reliving different days. So for him to keep revisiting that day, it explained why he was a little bit more of a piece of shit, but it doesn't excuse what he did because he wasn't trying to end his torment. He was being a selfish asshole, and to the very end, he was being a selfish piece of shit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, his whole introduction and everything. When Peter Quint came into this story in the first place, he didn't have good motives. His motives weren't just to. Well, I mean, I suppose it did. Like he probably didn't start robbing them until his mother came into the picture. But he was always kind of a bad person. He was always a shitty kind of evil guy because all the other things he did, just the way he pokes at people, none of that was necessary. That was all of his own volition. She didn't say take their money and fuck with them in little small ways.
Yeah.
She said take their money.
And let's talk about his plan. Peter's plan as a ghost, not before he was killed. His plan was he had figured out a way to sort of inhabit the bodies of Miles, and then he wanted Rebecca to take Flora and take them and basically push those characters down into a way where they had no power over
That's
their own
gross
bodies.
as shit too, because they're
Yeah,
siblings,
well, yes,
and it's like we're gonna live forever together. And I'm like, wait a second.
that was the plan, and
Yeah.
they would have inherited the money. They would have been able to leave. Yeah, I mean, I get the plan, but he was willing to sacrifice those kids in order to do it. And that, like I said, going to the whole selfish thing, as opposed to just sort of living at the manor and being a ghost and being with Rebecca. He was like, no,
Yeah.
I'm
at every step, it's the most selfish, most sociopathic thing he can do. Like even when he decides, when he seemingly decides to hell with my mother's plan, his idea was like, well, I'm still going to rob them, but me and Rebecca are going to go to America instead. We'll leave all this behind. We'll flee the country. We'll go to America.
I forget which episode. It was 7 or 8. I think it was 8. We get the revelation, the reveal, the backstory of Viola Lloyd, the Lady of the Lake. It's an entire episode. It's essentially its own little sort of independent horror film. It's all in black and white. I like the style of it. It reminds me of some. I don't know if you guys have ever seen some of the old 1930s and 40s sort of ghost story films. They clearly were inspired by that, the way it was shot and everything. I enjoyed the episode a lot. It's sort of a good standalone, also to some degree.
Yeah,
I believe it's also based off of a short story.
Oh, is it based off of an existing short story?
Yeah, the way I understand it, so the season itself is based off of a book. Obviously, changes were made, and then that particular episode is also one of the short stories written by the same author, and they just sort of worked it in.
So, in that case, my question is with that then is, Jamie's whole thing about changing the name of everything was that kind of a just sort of a reference to the fact that there's a book and the names have been changed as well as
possibly. I don't know.
Yeah, I enjoyed that episode. Just like you said, Brian, it could have almost stood alone, and it could have. The way they ended it, it explained why she was a ghost, what happened. It gave her the whole story. To me, it didn't need to end in episode 10 for episode 9 to be its own story. Like it had closure. It wasn't a happy story. I mean, she was a ghost for forever, but I think that it explained a lot throughout the story, but it also set up its own kind of lore and everything onto its own, standalone thing. I thought that was clever to have it be its own story within a story.
Well, yeah, and I thought it was a neat twist that, whereas you assumed that the sister was a more benevolent, a better character, you see towards the end of this, no, not really. She had her own motives. Viola wasn't the sole villain in this. It was her sister's actions that kind of brought about everything, and her own selfishness. Once we learned her motives, once we learned the type of person she could become, once the money started to run out, once she wasn't getting the things that she wanted. She was very much a Peter Quint herself.
Well, I think that, as adults, we're talking about Peter, although all that shit happened to him as a kid and it made him kind of who he was still a piece of shit.
Yeah.
So regardless of her sister's actions, Viola's actions herself were her own actions. I don't think that they had anything to do with her sister. I think that she was just a giant piece of shit.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Viola is definitely evil because of that. But my point was more that her sister was kind of an evil, manipulative character in her own right.
Well, I don't know about evil.
Well,
I wouldn't disagree with manipulative.
Well, common real world kind of evil, the way that she manipulates the husband, the way that she, just decides to coldly put down her sister and take all of her things, and the way she acts once they're losing the money, and the fact that she decides to, she makes it seem like it's about the daughter, but she clearly decides to steal the daughter's inheritance and everything.
Well, it goes back to what I was saying about Peter, because I don't completely agree. I mean, I see what you're saying, Larry, but I get her more than I get the others. Like her actions, I sort of get them.
Yeah.
Yet again, these are characters that are sort of in a shitty spot, and they see their life has the potential to be better, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to achieve that.
Mm-hmm.
In her case, her sister was horrible to her for all those years, and she was basically nothing more than a servant to her sister. She's part of this noble family with money and riches, but she gets none of that because of her sister. And so there was a frustration there. And as far as I do know what you mean, as far as her eyeing that stuff, because the way she looks at it when she opens it, it's more than just a this will help the family. It
Like,
allures her in, like, ooh, these are mine now. So I do get what you're saying, but at the same time, I would, in other words, I would consider Peter and Viola worse than Perdita. I think that's how you say her name.
yeah, I would.
I talked about that. She's the lady. It's the
Yeah,
same name as from
that
101
damn name.
Dalmatians.
I was like, you should have seen me trying to, like, oh, god damn it, I got to remember how to say this name.
Well, you said it correctly as far as I know. But yeah,
As
and I
far
get
as
what
they
you
said
said.
in the episode.
I get what you're saying with this though. Yeah, she is less evil. Because there's a reason behind it. There are things that led to it, and her beef with her sister is a little more personal. And but by the end though, it was clear that her motives were pure greed, and it was very much to hell with everybody else. I got mine kind of thing.
I also have a thought on one of the themes of the show that I think they should have pushed more was inheritance. I don't think so. The idea that Viola was haunting that chest and all of the items in it, and her thought was it was going to go to her daughter, and it was her, hers to open, hers to have. And Viola was really set on this idea that was hers. And when it wasn't her, she kills her sister, and then he takes that chest, he casts it in the lake, and now she's trapped in the lake. But to me, there was a whole theme of sort of this idea of inheritance that I think the show didn't explore as much as it should have, because I felt there needed to be another component to that. What do y'all think about that? You agree, disagree?
I don't know that it was inheritance as much as like when we talked about ghosts being drawn to items. I think that if there was a way to get rid of that chest, or if it was a way to pull it up from the depths of that pond and burn it or whatever, I think that they probably could have released her without Danny, basically drowning herself. I think that they could have probably released the spirit without that, because they showed that, Danny's boyfriend, Edgar, Eddie, whatever, I don't remember his name, but
That was right.
was it? Okay, that was a good guess.
Or was it Edward? Edward?
I don't remember.
Now you got me.
Yeah, I
No,
think
it
I
was-
think I think it's Eddie. I think it's Eddie.
Yeah, they
But
called
they-
him Ed. Yeah.
But she destroyed his glasses, and then that was over. They had the lighter. They were showing that some of these ghosts were drawn to items. I lied about the house because I already knew that the uncle gave them the house, but I didn't want to pretend like I knew what I was talking about. I'd already seen episode 6, but but there's a lot of things that they are drawn to different um, parts of the house, but they were drawn to different items as well. So I think that if they were somehow able to get rid of all that stuff that she was trying to give to her daughter, that she was already dead, it may have been able to break her tie to the house.
Yeah, and there were a lot of hints to that in the series, that it's these items, and such as Peter's lighter, not just the glasses, but Peter's lighter and all the other little items and things. The hairpin,
Yeah.
that Miss Jessel had. There were a lot of hints that was another way to do this, and that was the point where I was like, okay, maybe I'm not wrong. Maybe Father what's his name's story in the boarding school isn't foreshadowing how it ends. But and I don't know. Maybe that was them leaving the showrunners leaving it open for themselves to decide how they want to end it. But it did definitely hint towards what you were saying.
Yeah, I don't. I just was thinking, I was like, that would be another way to have ended it. But me and Brian were talking, and we talked about this last time too. It being a gothic romance, the main romance being between Jamie and Danny. When we found that out, that they were the main ones that they were focusing on as far as the romance goes, it I didn't assume it was going to end happy. Like it bummed me out, but I think that's probably the reason that they didn't have it go that direction. They wanted it to be, in the vein of a gothic romance, kind of a little bit more, sorrow felt as opposed to, happy ending. And it went right in that vein. It was going that direction, but it did bum me out a little bit that they didn't figure out the item part, because they were clearly placing that in front of us. But in a when you're mourning the loss of somebody, like, I don't know that I would have thought of that, immediately either. Like, it's
Also, they had no backstory on the chest.
That's
Really,
true. Yeah, they didn't have any knowledge of it.
at that point.
well, and they also didn't know. Like, Danny knew about the glasses, but she didn't know about the lighter. Like, there was a lot of, us as the audience see that, so I understood why she wasn't able to do that or put those pieces together. But as the audience, I was hoping that that would happen, but it didn't.
Well, yeah, and I thought when everything was starting to center around the lake that they may discover the chest or something at this point, and that maybe that's and that they may to some degree put two and two together, that there's this chest down there and that's the only thing you see down there, and maybe that they dredge it up and while mid battle with her, and I don't know, I just kind of thought that maybe it would end that way, but then I was like, oh no, they're going to, like, when Danny says the thing, I'm like, they're going the direction I thought they were going to go. It's like she's going to take in the evil, and eventually it's going to drive her to kill herself, just like in the story of Legion.
What did you think? Yeah, it completely mirrors that story. Which, what did you think of Danny's sacrifice? She basically made a bargain, and essentially, she got, I believe, 10 years roughly with Jamie before she went back to the pond or the lake, whatever you want to call it. So she got a few years, and then she had, to make the sacrifice, if you will, for all the ghosts to be freed, and for the kids to be okay. Did you like the ending as far as Danny's story, or what'd you think?
I did.
Yeah, I thought it made sense.
I like how they tied up all the stories. Like I said, I was hoping for something else, but I wasn't sad that it didn't go the direction I wanted, because it still made sense. Although there's a couple things that didn't make sense, like why the fuck Jamie was leaving doors open. Ghosts can go through doors. I don't really understand why she had to leave it like cracked open. I was assuming that somebody at the hotel was going to come in and murder her so that she could be with Danny. But speaking of which, this has nothing to do with either of those things, so I don't know why I said speaking of which. The Viola, she is the showrunner director's wife in real life. She was the main lady in Hush. She was also in the Haunting of Hill House too, but that's the Mike Flanagan or whatever. That's his wife.
Hush, great film. It's on, I believe it's still on Netflix. We have a review for that up on the channel if you want to go check that out. Really
it's
good.
The same guy who did this. He did Haunting of Hill House. He's done a couple other things, but Hush is an amazing movie. But I just wanted to throw that out there while I was thinking about it. But the way Danny's story ended, to me, it was very, like, I keep saying gothic romance because it was. It starts happy. She's really concerned. She's really not sure whether or not she should be happy, but we know that Jamie's the one telling the story. We know that she's the narrator, and Danny's not there. So we don't know when. I kept questioning it. I didn't know for sure whether or not she was going to make it. I thought maybe Danny was not going to die, and then all of a sudden she started seeing the ghosts, and I was like, oh shit. And the way they explained everything, it made me feel bad for Jamie, because they both didn't have the greatest, happiest lives, and then they found each other and were super happy, but always had that one thing hanging over their head. And it was like, I was legit like choking up. I was like, oh damn.
Speaking of Jamie, real quick, the moonflower scene where she's sort of giving her backstory. It was a funny scene to me. It was a great scene, well done, but it made me laugh because I'm thinking, from the writer's point of view, they wanted to give her backstory, but they didn't want to hire a whole bunch of actors and like shoot it. So they were like, all right, you're gonna have to give this like 5-minute monologue straight. with and I could imagine her reading the script like, oh shit, like this is a lot. Well, is there any breaks? They're like, no, you're just gonna have to do it.
Yeah, that was a serious monologue right there. I was thinking that too. I was like, God, God damn, I thought we were gonna fade to a scene or something at some point, but yeah.
But I think that goes back to how not only this was scripted well, it was put together well. The showrunner did a good job. There's a couple things that I had an issue with, but they weren't really plot oriented. And I think that shows, to me, it gives clout to the actors within the series. They did a great job, and Jamie did a great job with that. I mean, it's one of those things that those are hard to do,
Mm-hmm.
and remember all that stuff and keep it straight without having to do it 47 times. She did a great job, and I was impressed.
Speaking of the gothic romance stuff, there's a bunch of romances that are all unfulfilled. You have obviously Danny and Jamie is sort of the lead romance. You have Peter and Rebecca, Owen and Hannah, Henry and Charlotte, Arthur and Viola and Perdita. That yet again is one of the main themes of the series. All the fulfilled romances. I felt the one that bugged me the most in terms of no real closure, or at least I wanted something more, was probably the Owen. I felt Owen was cheated a little bit in the show. He didn't really get a full episode. Like everybody got backstory episodes, he really didn't, in my opinion. I was into the relationship of him and Miss and Hannah Gross, but I don't know if there was one character I wish had more. It was probably Owen.
Yeah, I kind of wanted during that last scene with Hannah before she disappeared. I kind of wanted that scene to be directly with Owen, if anything, as well, because I think she should have told him herself. Like they should have had a conversation, and she should have, before she faded away, told him to look in the well. And just let him know that she's sorry about the situation and everything. But the fact that it was with Mr. Wingrave instead of him, it seemed a little less personal. They should have had one more, just kind of moment like that.
And me and Brian mentioned this before you were be able to get on there, Larry, with your computer problems. But, we talked about Owen. It felt like he was robbed of having his own backstory. Everybody else kind of had their own episode. His story was tied in a little bit to Hannah Gross's episode. They were kind of both of their episodes together, but I still felt like they gave us so much about Owen. They told us so much about what he wanted to do, and I felt like if they would have gave me more of his backstory, I think the end where he's at the wedding, the end where he's super sad. He basically attributes this whole restaurant to Hannah. I didn't feel like they gave us enough of that. Or even if they would have split the Hannah's backstory episode, if they would have gave us a little bit more of Owen in that episode, maybe, let him share the spotlight a little bit, I would have liked it better. But I felt like they kind of dropped the ball with explaining him a little bit.
Yeah, they did. It did seem like that character needed more time in the story, and like you said, perhaps an actual backstory like all the other characters got. Speaking of that, oh, yeah, you go ahead. I'm going to move on.
I was just going to say the only character I really had an issue with was Henry. I felt like he could have basically not been in the story at all, and it wouldn't have fucking mattered.
His role wasn't as significant as I thought it was going to be.
What did you think of his demon? Do you think if there was one supernatural element that you could argue was in his mind, yet again, the idea that his character really wasn't needed, because you could say no, that was an actual sort of inner demon, like for real, that was holding him back and keeping him, drunk all the time. Or you could say no, that was all in his head.
Well,
like you really could go both ways with everything else. It's like, no, that was some ghosts. Like, but his whole demon thing, I was like, you could go both ways with it if you really, really wanted to.
Well, I
Right.
think to me that was the issue. Is that at first I thought maybe they're trying to throw us off, which because I didn't know Viola was her own whole story. I did. I mean, I knew that we had talked about her probably being the lady in the lake prior to that because of
There's a shot of her name.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
several times. So
early
we
on.
thought maybe that was her, but we didn't. I didn't catch the date. I didn't know any of that stuff. So I assumed it was still Henry that had something to do with it, and Henry didn't have to do a shit. He was just a drunken person who had so much guilt gut that he couldn't go back to the house and he couldn't face his own kid. So like to me it made me dislike his character more and it explained less. I was like, he really is just a piece of shit. Like it's
Very much. I mean, he's in a relationship with his brother's wife, while his brother, and it's not like yeah, his brother's not around, but it's bigger than that. His brother is working for the business. He's out there um, for the company, and yet he's cheating with his wife.
Yeah, it really was one of those things that, I thought, okay, we're going to get good reasons why Henry's so cold and everything, and we're going to get to see a more sympathetic side. But really, I came out of it, like you're saying, Spencer, going, oh, so Henry was always shitty, but just in a different way. It's like, which I guess is fine for the story and all, but like you said, I just don't see how. Well, we could have, like you said, we could have done this whole story sans Henry.
yeah, he didn't really push the plot at all. I think that him cheating could have been explained with the parents. He basically could have been in the beginning episode, and then they could have showed him again during the cheating. But it's still that wasn't even really important to the plot because, yes, Flora was his kid, but it didn't really matter. Like at the end, it was what him dancing with her. Like that wasn't an important plot device. It didn't matter unless they were literally just trying to throw us off of what caused the ghosts and stuff. So maybe it was just a kind of, you know, to keep us off right the right track. But even that, I don't feel like it was needed. I felt like it could have been another character. It could have been a different ghost story. It could have been us thinking whether or not it's the parents.
It
there's
could have
so many
been
other ways it could have gone. Other
his
than
story. His story could have been woven into one of the other backstories, like the portion where Hannah is alive. She could have noticed that that was going on, and then that was part of the issue. If this is the story you wanted to tell, in regards to Henry, it was so insignificant that, well, so unrelated to the rest of the plot that, it didn't feel like it needed its own episode.
yeah, I don't think so at all.
Yeah. So the ending, we find out that it is in fact Jamie telling the story to everyone.
Which we suspected.
Yeah. It's what 97, I think, is when the wedding is taking place.
2007. I think it went
Was it
from
okay? You might.
87
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah,
2007. I think it
yeah.
was 20 years.
Yeah, you're right. So
Although
yeah,
it,
that.
I have a gripe with that. Not a huge one, but they show this person who I think is Jamie just in makeup. Like they did, a little prosthetic and stuff. But that guy who was playing Owen didn't look anything like Owen.
He
He looked
didn't.
like a foot shorter. Like he looked younger than the Owens. I was really fucking confused as to
They were all
what the.
well. Even Jamie was a different actress. I mean, they were all different actors. But yeah, the guy that played Owen looked nothing
like yeah,
that guy.
everyone's accent was completely different as
Well,
well.
and it could have been just like her trying to tell the story, and those could have been like them showing that the story was real, even though like at the end she was just like, no, it's just based off of real events, that happened. So I get that line to kind of alleviate that a little bit, but she at least looked like Jamie, sounded like Jamie. Owen didn't look and or sound like their skin tone was like a similar shade, but that was it.
Well, yeah, it's just it's like, well, Jamie in the past, her accent is like way more lowbrow than this person's in a way. it's like, it seems like it's from those same region, but maybe not the same side of town. It was that much of a difference that it just felt a bit off.
You saying she was from across the tracks?
I mean, her backstory, just kind of spells that out. Like, but
Daughter of a coal miner, man.
yeah, and yeah, exactly. And
did you sing that song the whole time when you heard that?
Like
Dolly Parton.
Future Jamie doesn't look like doesn't sound like that same, like Brian said, daughter of a coal miner. But I forgot that song existed.
Yeah, I really think they were just trying to throw you off with all that, because you could have easily put the same actors, Owen, Henry, her, and just made them look older. But I think they wanted it to be a twist, although it's not really an interesting twist.
Yeah, it wasn't them, but it was a story about them. But it really was them.
Okay.
Like,
I mean, I get. That's that's why I think they did it, is they wanted to throw you off. But
yeah, to make us think that it was them, but not them, but it was, because she said, it's based off true events, but next time I'll remember that it's a love story, not a scary story. And I'm like, clearly Owen, well, I guess future Owen and future Jamie both know each other and they're friends. So like,
right.
it's based off them, but not based off. Like, I don't know why they added that. That was weird.
Well, she sure made Henry Wingrave look a lot different, because good Lord, time hit him hard. If that's what he looked like in the past.
He goes from like 45 to 105.
The damn crypt keeper. God dang, dude.
Yeah, right. It's kind of like, after he got rid of his personal demons and everything, everyone was like, "Are you going to stop drinking?" And he's like, "Nope."
I was just kidding.
So all in all, we've had a few criticisms on here about this series, but I would say it was a solid ghost story. So much so that if I knew somebody who hadn't seen it and they're like, "Hey, would you watch it with me?" I would. I think it's a solid ghost story.
Yeah.
It was fun. The acting was good. I liked the way it was shot. I really hope they do another series. I'm going to go back. I have not yet watched House on Haunted Hill. Is it Hill?
I would suggest it. Yeah,
I do want to watch that. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I think, and I also enjoy the fact that it was. Yes, I love R-rated stuff and gore, and I'm into all that. But I think this was toned. This was done in such a way where you could show this to a 13-year-old, and I sort of appreciate that it's a good sort of scary story that's just sort of like that nice PG-13 realm.
Yeah. And it still works.
And it still works, and I do appreciate that. So yeah, I would recommend this to I'd say 12-year-old, 13-year-old could watch this and enjoy it. A nice little scary story.
I think the best part about that though is it doesn't rely on jump scares. It doesn't rely on it. It's just a little unsettling. Like the things in there are just a little uncomfortable, which to me is a better scary story anyway. Like I mean, I don't, even just because it's rated R and there's a little bit of gore, to me doesn't make it good. So, when they show those kind of things, like, I don't hate it because of that. But I think that, like you said, it's, showing the fact that they could pull off a decent PG-13 rated type scary story very well is impressive in my book. Like, they did a great job.
Yeah, and the fact that you mentioned those things, those particular gripes and everything, that there's no jump scares, there's none of those cheap scares that you get out of a lot of other things in the sort of horror genre. I was mentioning this show to somebody, and they just mentioned every gripe that you just said, and they mentioned that as a reason for them not being interested in horror at all, and they. And I said, well, that's not in there. It's got none of that. So you should still check it out. And they seem pretty interested in actually watching it, because there are people who don't like those things, but yet it still maintains the tone and the atmosphere that you expect.
Well, and like you said, the scary parts of it not only were the non is just uncomfortable. It wasn't really jump scares, but the fact that they not only didn't have to rely on that, the fact that they used what they did. The parts that were uncomfortable, they didn't jump out at you. It was like a ghost that was sitting there, and you're like, "What the fuck is that? Is that a ghost?" But didn't like jump out of nowhere and like try to eat you. It was just, a little scary.
Yeah, and like I said, I love the aesthetics of the way it was shot. I'm into a lot of the old Hammer films, and I felt a lot of that with this as well. So, yeah, I enjoyed it. I would recommend it. They haven't announced yet whether or not they're doing a third series, although I'm almost positive they are because of the success of this one.
It's been rated in the top 4 since it came out.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, there'll be another one. I'm sure. Uh, anything else? I basically went through all the
big things.
major points that I thought were worth talking about.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I hope for season 3, and I look forward to talking more about season 3 next time.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And as you were saying earlier, it's good enough that as someone who hasn't seen season 1, I really want to go back and watch that now. I'll probably do that if I ever have free time.
I would suggest it.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely check it out at some point, I'm sure.
Like I said up front, if you've not subbed to the channel, you've enjoyed this, please do so. Lots of content on the channel. We're doing Fargo, we're doing The Undoing, we're doing The Mandalorian, a lot of other things we're planning. So check that out, and yeah, we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.